Hey there, internet friends, and welcome to another episode of That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm one of your hosts, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions of the thing. Joining me today, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, I'm doing good. What's going on?
Not much. We were just talking about obviously the PlayStation showcase right before we started recording. So it's been an eventful day. We got, speaking of Disney, we got new Marvel things coming out. We got new Star Wars or old Star Wars games coming back. So it was an eventful day for the extended Disney universe. Today we're going to be talking all about Turner and Hooch. Specifically the pilot episode of the series, Forever and a Dog. Before we dive into that, I want to give you a little bit of housekeeping. This show is made possible entirely by the support of our patrons over at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. So if you like the show and you can support us over there, we would definitely appreciate it. And if you can't, no big deal. The fact that you're listening is awesome. And of course, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. It's very interesting coming back to like just the old normal version of that D Plus show after our summer of Star Wars, and then obviously last week I did kind of a solo episode about the Behind the Attractions series to coincide with my very impromptu Disney trip. But I'm still in that like, let's figure out what to talk about. What do we want to do episodes on and all that stuff. And so I picked Turner and Hooch this week. Actually, because my friends over at the Castle Vault recommended it when I guested on their podcast this week. They do a similar Disney Plus themed series. Their series instead is going through kind of chronologically. Originally, they did like Disney animated films, then they did Pixar films, and now they're doing the MCU is where they're at in their timeline of things. So that's kind of their branch of the Disney Plus universe. But they were talking about Turner and Hooch a little bit and just kind of gave it a recommendation. So I was like, all right, hey Cameron, are you interested in watching the first episode of Turner and Hooch? And you responded yes while I was about halfway through it. So I was pretty much locked in to do this episode with or without you, but I'm glad you were able to join me for it. Did you have any expectations going into this one?
I didn't know what to think about it because I didn't know if it was I found out while watching it that it's in fact a follow-up series or a sequel series to it. And
have you seen the original Turner and Hooch? Do you have like any kind of like connection to that one?
I have. Yeah? I love the original Turner and Hooch. It's one of my favorite older like 80s Tom Hanks movies. It's Tom Hanks was in the late 80s, early 90s, was just absolutely killing it with his films. Turner and Hooch. Like, I'm even a fan of Joe versus the Volcano, which is admittedly like his worst one out of that bunch of films. But like, I'm a massive fan of his work during that time. Granted, I'm also a fan of like Dragnet, which is once again also like notably not considered a very good movie by a lot of people.
Oh, I like the Dragnet. Him and
Dragnet
Dan Aykroyd
was awesome. Yeah, Dan Aykroyd and him are phenomenal when they go like, oh yeah, no, I love it.
It is definitely like probably improved by the fact that I grew up watching like reruns of Dragnet on like Nick at Night before I ever saw the Dragnet movie with Tom Hanks, who by the time I watched that movie in like probably the early 90s or something like that, he had become Tom Hanks. So this was me going back and like watching an old thing. Same with like Dan Aykroyd. Like I knew who those guys were when they were doing it. It was post probably their bigger their things when I actually circled back around to it. So it was definitely a fun take on that in this. But I'm a sucker for that kind of thing. Like I also really like the Get Smart movie with Steve Carell and Dwayne Johnson.
That's such a great movie. That's a great movie. I love that movie.
Anne Hathaway. Anne
Hathaway's in it. It's phenomenal. I have to say, like, it has been a long time since I saw the original film, and I'm not gonna lie, I wish I had like watched it beforehand just to like have that fresh in my mind. But like it's I love like the thing I love about that film is that it like really tugs at your heartstrings. I freaking love the movie when it comes to like the idea of like dogs, and like I'm a big dog guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I wasn't allergic to cats, I would think cats are cool and fine, but I'm allergic to cats, so fuck off. You know, I like the ability to breathe. Thank you very much.
Fair.
Not having my skin covered in hives just because they brush up against me. So like obviously I have a bias inherent, like just within my natural, like within my within that aspect of it. But on top of that, like I grew up with dogs. I love dogs. I love big dogs. I've grown up almost exclusively with large dogs. Like the smallest dog my family ever owned was a bloodhound. And even then,
my family was the inverse. Like we had a big dog, Shadow, when I was like, I don't know, like probably 10 or younger, and then he passed away. But other than that, like my family has always been small dogs, like lap dogs. And so I am not a huge big dog person. Like I'm fine with them, but when they, jump up on you, I'm like, okay, all right. I don't need to be tackled by an animal. That's not really what I'm looking for.
Oh my gosh. We my sister it's funny also this happened. We're watching this movie right now. About like 2 weeks ago, my sister got a lab mix, a lab like black lab, brown lab, all the different, like it's a mix of a couple of different Labradors. But dominant, like black is totally the dominant color on him. We call him Bandit because he's a little rascal. Loves tearing up his own pee pad. Absolute little. I like earlier tonight. I was like, all right, come on, Bandito, let's go. When I took him out to use the restroom, love him already. But then again, like a dog doesn't have to do much to make me love them. I am inherently predisposed to loving a dog, and I can't wait for Bandit to get bigger and be like a bigger dog. Granted, like I like small dogs too. I'm a big fan of dogs, whether it's small dogs, large dogs. I don't care for like these particularly small bred dogs, like dogs bred to be small. Your teacups or your, like these really small ones that are done on purpose because they, and they're like inevitably just have really bad health problems, and it's done like for like, if you're trying to, like if you have a purebred dog, like that's fine, I guess, like that's totally fine. But if you are in the interest of like breeding like new aesthetics into dogs at this point, I don't care. Like, I don't care for you. That's like you're causing health problems intentionally for the sake of aesthetics. It's understandable that now they do want to maintain purebreds at this point in order to like maintain health, like basically making sure like the healthier ones, prevent the incest breeding that earlier dog breeding had. And like, so basically it's more of like a controlled reproduction effort rather than for the sake of having purebred dogs. A lot of societies about purebred dogs are about like maintaining like lineage and genealogy in order to make sure that sibling lines don't get crossed accidentally. And so you don't end up having these habitual health problems in dogs that are purebreds. Because they have a whole thing about it, but like they try to do it humanely. But like, yeah, I love dogs, man.
Yeah.
So this is already going to be like, this is already going to have a thumbs up, man. Because we're heading into it. I love dogs.
I mean, yeah, I love dogs. I have never watched the original Turner and Hooch, so and like I don't feel like I was at a loss for anything in this. I feel like it does a decent enough job. Like I knew going into this that this was a continuation series because I'd seen like the trailers and stuff. So like I was actually surprised that in the trailer they like introduced the idea that like the Tom Hanks character died. Like I was like, oh, okay, like all right, not like you're just completely writing him out from ever potentially appearing in the series. And based on like where the episode ends, who knows? Maybe he's not really dead. Maybe he faked his death or whatever to hide from people. Like, I'm sure they could seriously retcon that if they really needed to. But it was definitely like, oh, okay. It's interesting that you're like, that's the approach that they're taking in these kinds of continuations. Usually they leave the door open for as many opportunities for people to come back as they can. So I was surprised by that, and that's again given away in the trailer for the series, let alone
Yeah,
opening opening chunks of the first episode talking about how oh yep, your dad, we lost him so suddenly or whatever.
I like that aspect of it because it makes you think, okay, cool. We're never gonna have like we're never gonna have Tom Hanks pop up. Like we're moving on past that. But like the legacy of, I like that it wasn't that this is not a. I feel a lot of times when you have legacy characters, they hero worship the parent.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fictionally famed parent. Fictionally framed parent. Like this is a secondary character that we have from the original. Scott Turner. This is Scott Turner Jr. And you now have like the evolution of this is like this is a character who very much has like done things differently than his dad, which I immediately liked. Like his Scott Turner in the original Turner and Hooch film learns of like an incredible lesson about the importance of like community and local law enforcement. And ends up they didn't mention it here, but he wasn't just like a police officer or a police detective. He was the chief of police at the end of Turner and Hooch. Sorry, brief spoilers. But he was a good cop, but he decided to protect his hometown. And for Scott to be like, yeah, he didn't want me to move to the city. And it's like, okay, nope, 100%. Yeah, because he was in the beginning of Turner and Hooch, he's trying to move out to Sacramento to become a detective out there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like he 100% took the path his dad was decided against taking. And I like that aspect of it because as a small note, it's hypocritical of him as a father to tell his son not to do the thing that he wanted to do, like when he was younger.
Sure.
And I like that aspect of it. I like that there was a complicated history. And so when he reads his dad's letter, granted, the letter being far more about the dog than him.
Yeah. It's a weird, that's, we'll get into that in a little bit.
I will say though that there's aspects to it with the original Turner and Hooch that I think they really do a great job of carrying forward. And we'll get into some of the other stuff that I didn't think was so hot about it.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Fair enough. So a little bit of the history lesson on this. Originally started releasing July 21st, 2021. We're still in the midst of the first season as we are recording this. It will be running, the final episode of this first season will air October 6th, 2021. So still a few episodes to go as we record this. Other notable releases that I pulled in of the time, also releasing on July 21st over on Netflix. You had The Movies That Made Us Season 2 on Disney Plus here on the 21st. You had the Behind the Attraction series debuted, which I talked about last week. And then also over on Netflix, you had Masters of the Universe Revelation, the Kevin Smith produced kind of continuation series of Masters of the Universe. Came out July 23rd over on Netflix. Episodes have a runtime of about 45 to 48 minutes. Basically, it's an hour-long thing, just no commercial breaks because it's on Disney Plus. In the Disney Plus original programming timeline of things, we had the Mysterious Benedict Society debuted June 25th, 2021. Then you had Turner and Hooch and Behind the Attraction here on July 21st, followed by Chippendale Park Life on July 28th. The Marvel What If series debuted on August 11th. Growing Up Animal on August 18th. Doogie Kamealoha MD just debuted yesterday as we are recording this on September 8th. Kind of a inspired by Doogie Howser series set in Hawaii. And then we will have another entry for Star Wars in Star Wars Visions coming out later this month on the 22nd of September. The roll call, who's who of the film. The director here, a name I had not seen or thought of in a while, but you have Mick G directing the pilot episode of Turner and Hooch. He, of course, famously started in music videos in the late 90s, doing a lot of Korn videos and Cypress Hill, as well as Santeria from Sublime. A lot of Smash Mouth videos, including Walking on the Sun, Why Can't We Be Friends, Can't Get Enough of You Baby, and All Star. He did Pretty Fly for a White Guy from The Offspring, as well as one of my all-time favorites, Bare Naked Ladies. He did their 1 week video. He made his switch into films with Charlie's Angels and Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. He also directed the Chuck pilot episode, which is a series very near and dear to my heart, as well as the pilot episode for the Lethal Weapon TV series a few years back. And he is slated to direct the upcoming True Lies series pilot episode. So,
what the heck?
Yeah, Mick G out there, like, it had a pretty successful career for a guy that came from like the TRL era of Korn videos and stuff. The writer slash showrunner here is Matt Nix, who I immediately recognized the name from Burn Notice, but he had also done the Good Guys series. So yeah, he was the guy behind Burn Notice. And then like watching this episode, it's like, oh yeah, this is very much a procedural cop kind of show. So it's absolutely going to have those Burn Notice kinds of vibes. Starring, we have Josh Peck as Scott Turner, Scott Turner Jr., as you kind of touched on, but he's not. Mm-hmm. He's not named Scott Turner Jr. in this, just Scott Turner. He is Josh of Drake and Josh fame, which is a show I've never seen. Is that a show that like you had growing up there, Cam, with the age gap, or was it still like was that even after your time?
To say growing up is not accurate. It was a show on during my like early teen years. Mm-hmm. So it was a little bit after. Like I never watched it regularly. If it was on, sure. Like if it was the only thing on, for sure, I'd watch it. But like it was also like very much like in the vein of it is a like follow up by the Amanda Show.
Yeah, he was also in that as well.
Yeah, he was on that and like his follow up through that. Never was like super compelled to keep watching it, but it was interesting enough, and I'm glad I don't have an emotional like attachment to it because of who Drake turned out to be.
That's so. He ended up being super problematic recently, right?
Oh yeah, very problematic.
All right.
Yes.
Yes. In addition to Drake and Josh, he was also Casey Jones, the voice of Casey Jones in the one of the recent Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle series that ran from 2013 to 2017, and he is going to be in the upcoming How I Met Your Father film, or not film series, kind of the sequel series to How I Met Your Mother. Cara Patterson playing Jessica Baxter. She was previously in Straight Outta Compton. As well as she was on the series The Arrangement, 2017-2018. She was in an episode of the recent series Lovecraft Country. Not actually watched it myself, but I saw it on HBO Max a lot in recent months, I believe. Lindsay Fonseca playing Laura Turner, a.k.a. Scott's sister. She was the daughter in How I Met Your Mother. Which I always see that name. I'm like, oh, hey, it's the daughter from How I Met Your Mother. She was also in the film Hot Tub Time Machine, as well as Kick-Ass 1 and 2. She had a long recurring role on the series Nikita, as well as a shorter recurring role in the series Agent Carter, which is that was another one of those places I was like, oh, yeah. Like when she went and did Agent Carter, I was like, oh, it's the girl from How I Met Your Mother. Very weird seeing her like grown up and not as the daughter, which you'd seen her as basically because they locked her in time. Vanessa Lengies, not sure, is playing Erica Munir.
It's Lengies.
Lengies? Okay, thank you.
Lengies, I think is how it's pronounced. It's Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Spanish.
Lengies. Okay. She was in the TV show Glee, which must have been one of the later seasons because I did not recognize her at all. But she was on there for a number of episodes I saw. She is also in a show that has popped up occasionally in the mentions on this very show, Lego Star Wars: The Freemaker Adventures, which is basically one of the Lego Star Wars series on Disney Plus, and probably Disney XD or something before that. She's I think one of like the main. She's like one of the Freemakers in that series. I saw she's playing the love interest here for Scott.
I should note, she was also in the incredible films Waiting and Stick It.
Indeed. I had not seen either of those, so I didn't know if she was like a prominent enough role to give a shout out on those, but they were like on her like known from IMDb, but a lot of times that's just like, these are the biggest movies that this person's in, and the person's like a one-line side character or something like that. So, but yes, I've heard good things about Waiting. I've not seen it myself though. Brandon J. McLaren playing Xavier Watkins here, who doesn't have a ton to do in this episode. He's just kind of introduced as like, oh, he's going to be one of the kooky people that kind of fills out the supporting cast here. But he was the Red Ranger in the Power Rangers SPD series. He's also in She's the Man and Tucker and Dale versus Evil in his younger days. Jeremy Maguire playing Matthew Garland, aka the kid, Laura's son, was one of the kids in Modern Family. I don't know which one because it's from one of the. He was not one that I remember from like the first couple seasons of Modern Family, but he was one of the kids in later seasons. Maybe Ed O'Neill and Sofia Vergara's kid, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Anthony Ruivivar playing James Mendez. Was previously in Starship Troopers, Third Watch. He also was in a couple episodes of Chuck, and I was like, I recognize him. What do I recognize him from? Then saw it in Chuck, and I was like, there he is. That's who it is. And he was the voice of Bruce Wayne and Batman in Beware the Batman, that series. And more recently, he was in The Haunting of Hill House. And then lastly, I pulled it in here. He's not in this episode, but he will be appearing in future episodes in the series. Reginald Vell Johnson, reprising his role from the original Turner and Hooch film as David Sutton. Of course, iconically from Die Hard, Family Matters, and again, the previous Turner and Hooch film. A little bit of trivia here. Scott and Laura are the kids of the original Scott Turner, as we've already kind of touched on. Reginald Vell Johnson reprises his role as David Sutton from Turner and Hooch, 1989. And then all of the episode titles so far feature dog puns. You have Forever and a Dog, as kind of a take on Forever and a Day. A Good Day to Dog Hard. Diamonds Are Forever. In the Line of Fur. Road to Smell Dorado. The Furgitive. To Serve and Protect. And ARF Appreciation. So there you go. So yeah, what did you think? We already touched on this a little bit, but what did you think overall, Cam? Especially from the perspective of somebody who has seen the original Turner and Hooch.
I'm a bit not really conflicted. I know where I'm sitting on stuff with this. There is stuff about this that I really, really liked and enjoyed. I think Josh Gad is not Josh Gad. That's the wrong name, isn't it?
Yes, it's Josh Peck. Josh Peck.
Josh Gad is Olaf
from Frozen.
Olaf. Yeah, sorry. Josh Peck is. I think he's a really great actor. I was super impressed with his his ability to be a tight ass and like this idea of meticulousness and whatnot, but at the same time not make it grating or over the top. I think a lot of times when people try to do this, they're this character is quote unquote meticulous. They come off as very boorish in their way to approach of it. Where I feel like the way that they handled it here in the beginning of the episode is just he is a guy who is punctual, on time, knows what he's trying to do, knows what he's he's one of those people who really has their life put together at the beginning of this film in a way that is very impressive. It's cool. I love what you see from him, but I also enjoy the range. When he's reading his dad's letter and it hits him that these are his dad's last words, and he immediately just gets really, really emotional in a way we haven't seen so far. So I feel like he demonstrates a really great range in this episode. He really has a way of taking command of a scene, knowing in what he's doing. I have to say, as far as casting goes, casting in this show is really, really good. Was really impressed by everybody. Everybody was doing totally believable. If you had told me that, hey, this is actually like a USA show, as far as like, you know, quality and expectations out of it, I'd believe you. Mm-hmm. Like a Burn Notice or a White Collar kind of show where you have like really great character actors doing these long-term stories. I would 100% believe it, that this is part of that same vein. The thing that doesn't really match up to it, and this is where my problems lie, is the writing. The writing is sometimes extremely weak. Mm-hmm. In the way that it is, not even that it's been dumbed down, but it's super vanilla basic writing with no, like, the things you know about Scott's dad. He was a cop, but he really loved dogs. Oh man, Scott's dad.
But he didn't until the
dogs.
original Hooch. Yeah.
But they don't bring that up here. They expect you to know that going in, because it's a sequel series, which is fine.
I mean, they touch on the idea that like all of the best things in his life started when he got a dog. I feel like they have a mention of like your dad was the same way. He didn't like dogs until he found his forever dog, and then he loved dogs.
Which is a weird phrase. They keep on using this phrase "forever dog," man.
Yeah,
and it's a weird phrase, and I don't like it, especially because like, listen, I'm going into with I'm going to spoil it for you, Trevor. I'm sorry. It's a great film. You should watch it anyway. Uh-huh. Hooch dies at the end of Turner and Hooch.
Oh, wow. Okay. I did not realize. I definitely thought that like the movie ends with like, okay, this is going to be the start of a beautiful friendship or something like that.
No.
Okay.
It's horribly tragic and like really like emotionally like devastating. Like, cause the way he dies is like super freaking heroic, man. Like this dog, like Hooch is like the reason people are like, wow, I love Hooch. Hooch just like is out there. Like it's a great movie. It's a great movie. But Hooch dies at the end. So for them calling Hooch, the original Hooch, his dad's forever dog, doesn't work. He had that dog for like 5 days tops. That's like, so they're like, you just gotta find your forever dog. Mm-hmm. Like your dad, like the original Hooch. The original Hooch.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's... I definitely feel like the series is trying to retcon the ending of the movie then, because it definitely doesn't set that idea up as I mean, the thing that I look at the series, I absolutely hear and understand where you're coming from on the writing being a little lackluster. And I definitely found myself thinking as I watched it, I was like, who is this show for? Because
yeah, right?
Like, especially like seeing somebody like Matt Nix attached to it, like Burn Notice was a fun action kind of thing. And this has that, but also mixed with like very childish, slapsticky comedy shtick. And so like...
that's very OG Turner and Hooch though.
I mean, like, okay, but like that may work very differently in a movie versus like a character drama series or something like that. And so like ultimately I walk away from this thinking like, I guess this is probably for the dads who liked Turner and Hooch, and it's something they can watch with their kids now to like, I guess, and it's so like, I feel like that's like the sweet spot that they're trying to hit is like a father and kids kind of relationship, or a parent and kids watching this show, getting a very CBS, like by the numbers kind of procedural thing, but with these like fun little, haha, look at all the protein powder on Hooch's face. Ha 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 ha. Isn't that funny? And it's just like, ooh, I am very much not the target audience for this show. Like I thought it was fine, but then whenever they went into those kinds of moments, I was like, oh my God, like this isn't doing it for me. This is, why did we just turn a corner into slapstick land? So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that that definitely has its things. Another thing is also like dog owning 101. Like if Scott had been raised around dogs, he'd know half the stuff that he is like finding out about dogs. Like he's coming into this show very dog dumb, which makes no sense if you grew up around dogs. Mm-hmm. Like there's just like I said, there's some stuff about this that it's like, hey, we want to tell you about Scott's dad. Cool. Scott's dad was a cop, but he loved dogs. Scott's dad loved dogs. Well, dad loved dogs. My dad loved dogs. It's that level of like really like basic ass storytelling that's just not good and always like just grinds my gears in just all the wrong ways. But because it's like it's to the nth degree at certain points.
But then they drop in like little tidbits like Turner just being able to speak Mandarin. Like the mom at the house that they try and like bust at the top of the episode, like tries to like wave him off by like saying that like, no, I haven't seen him in a while in Mandarin. And then the guy appears right behind her and he just like responds back in Mandarin, "You lied to me." And it's like, okay, so he just knows Mandarin.
Well, I don't think it's outside of the range. Like, the idea is this is a guy who has his life put together as a man of culture. I mean, and so like this is the kind of guy who uses a knife to even out his protein powder before he puts it in his protein shake. Like, very much I am of the impression, like, my impression of this is that this is a guy, like, here's the thing, he's a U.S. Marshal. It's not like he's some, like, regular beat cop. He's a U.S. Marshal. Yeah. Like,
that's, I mean, like
he's not a super cop, but he's, like, above what you'd expect out of, like, a basic investigator. So him knowing Mandarin is not that surprising.
Especially in set in San Francisco. It's just, it is not a flavor of white cop that we usually see in any kind of procedurals or anything like that. So like, oh, that's an extra layer of depth, especially that like she clearly didn't expect that he would know Mandarin. Like she was clearly trying to like send him off. She was clearly like saying this with the hope that he would just be like, I'm sorry, I don't speak Chinese or whatever. But also I will point out I am absolutely the same kind of person who would level out the protein powder if I did that. But I in no way have my life together. So I don't know. I don't know if that's like a defining feature of that. It's more as like, oh, like, yeah, I am OCD in that I want to absolutely have like that like completely cleared off at the brim.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that like, if it's like, oh shoot, I lost a spoon. All right, I'll eyeball it and like tip it over until I think I got it right. Yeah. Like I'm that kind of a person. But when it comes to when it comes to like the Mandarin speaking, I'm like, cool. But what I also think about it is like, this is not your typical white cop either.
Yeah.
This is definitely a cop who, first off, completely completely like follows the lead of his senior investigator, of a senior U.S. Marshal. Even though she's a woman and pregnant, like he completely like trusts her instincts and goes to her when he's like, I have this idea, but like, I don't know, like what, like it could cost me my career. I never thought I'd hear you say those words.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's clear that like she's a great mentor figure and a great, like, just overall great character. I really love the characters in this show.
Yeah. I mean, he's absolutely by the book, like the by the bookest of by the book kind of guys. And that combined with like his very like prim and proper, like neat, like the environment you see him in at the beginning, it's like immediately I'm thinking, oh, well, when this big dog comes in, that's definitely going to mess things up. And boom, 10 minutes later, that's exactly what's going on. And I'm like, okay, yep. Very like predictable, but also pretty much what I expect going into a Disney Plus show like this.
Yeah, I would also say that like, this is why it got me confused and why I thought it might have been a remake, is because that opening scene is very much like lifted from the original Turner and Hooch. Mm-hmm. Like Scott Turner in the original Turner and Hooch is a by the book, meticulous person who has his life like neatly put together. I would use the term meticulous.
Yeah.
Which is why they like the idea of Hooch coming into his life like is such a funny upend. It's basic comedy, man.
Yep.
A by the book, straight-laced person gets a hold of a rowdy, slobbery, messy dog, and it turns their life upside down in the best ways possible. And that's what this show's about. And I think they do kind of nail that. But I just wish that there was a... I'm not asking for Shakespeare here. But I am asking for, like, I'm sorry, I had a thought about a joke, but it doesn't really come together. Anyway, I'm not asking for the highest quality of scripts here, but I would just really appreciate it if we could get a Disney Plus show that did not sink into these, like somebody taking a note and making it a line.
Yeah, that's I will also echo that with the the line that, and I don't remember, like I did not write it down, but it was very much the line that the kid says that triggers like what Scott ends up thinking about, like, oh yeah, maybe Hooch was doing this at the crime scene, and kind of like cracks the case. Like the overly precocious kid line that is very clearly a screenwriter line doing the thing that he needs the plot to do.
Well, he's quoting his grandpa at the same time.
Yeah.
He's quoting, it's like, okay, weird. Well, grandpa always used to say, incredibly complex thought of like line of thought that there's no way a 6-year-old child would remember.
Yeah.
And be able to deliver with such like accuracy of like with everything that he does with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like what? Yes.
It reminded me
screenwriter inserting plot.
It reminded me of the Empire of Dreams story that Mark Hamill had, of like the line that he will never forget from his audition, kind of talking about like all the absurd things and just being like, who talks like this? Is very much what that kid probably should have walked away from that take every time. Just, who talks like this?
Yeah. I think that, especially when it comes to that, but I will say then you have like really great lines. Like, what's the motivation for this FBI agent like going bad? And he has a great moment. He goes like this guy gets to run, like walk away, like with millions of dollars, and like nothing ever happened. And like, what did it cost me? And he's like, my marriage, like debts I can't pay, like really like hammering in like, oh, this is a broken cop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like for the convenience of the plot. It's like, oh no, this is a very reasonable, like extrapolation of what you could see happening for an FBI agent who spends way too much time investing into his career, ruins his marriage, runs himself into debt, hunting down these criminals, only for one of them to basically walk away scot-free.
Yeah.
For turning on the others, while still having the millions of dollars hidden out there that he's not required to turn over as part of his plea deal.
Yeah. I very much like when they're like, when that character is like being introduced at the beginning, I immediately kind of had a lot of those same thoughts of like, screw this guy getting off scot-free after 21 robberies or whatever it was, making millions of dollars, gets off scot-free because he turns on his guys, and these guys are going to protect him, and then he's being pissy about them protecting him and stuff. It's like, yeah, the witness protection program is just a big old farce of a joke in this country. And like I remember with the U.S. Marshals show that had Mary McCormick on it, which was also like a USA show. Like I remember that, and like not thinking about that.
I love that show, man. I love that show.
I liked whatever I remember of it, but like it's very much like I didn't think about that at the time, but now I think about those kinds of things. I'm like, yeah, it sucks that this guy's gonna get away, and like resources are being used to protect him. He's getting dummy cars sent away, and it's like, what the, like, yeah, this FBI guy is completely in the right of oh yeah, no, you feel that the farce of our systems. Sure.
I would say that it's a like there's also other aspects of the witness protection program, because sometimes most of the time that somebody is in witness protection, they aren't a criminal. They happen to be a witness to something, or they are part of a like low-level part of an operation that was used to flip, and because they're important enough, they get witness protection.
Yeah,
like most people who go into witness protection really get screwed by the
I mean,
by the system, because
I mean there are certainly the flip sides in media as well, and obviously it's not witness protection, but like look at like Saul Goodman from Breaking Bad or something in Better Call Saul. It's the same kind of thing. He's like having to completely like upend his life and change everything around. I get that. But in this case, this scumbag criminal who's just exploiting the system and like just ready to turn on his people.
100%.
Like that, like it is like, yeah, absolutely. That guy should not be offered this thing. So yeah, this FBI guy, being upset and whatnot for it. Absolutely fitting.
You feel for
the
him.
character.
You feel for him for sure. But then he tries to murder.
Yeah, he tries to murder some like people that we like just fine, and a pregnant mom to be.
Yeah.
Kind of a jerk. Yeah. What did you think of the action of the show?
I was surprised by the quality of it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Was also surprised like the ambush scene at the motel, like dude's holding like a bloody wound. Like I was really surprised by like I'm like, wow, okay. Once again, this makes me feel like it's a weird mix of a Disney show meets USA show in like some of the coolest ways, like the way that they deal with it. The action was good as far as that goes. The car chase scene was awesome. When the Suburban flips the other car over his Jeep and he's just like watches as it happens and like is like, what the heck, like what have I gotten into?
Yeah.
Like what's going on here? Great. Like I loved the chase scene. The gunfights were pretty solid. I appreciated when the guy goes, yeah, don't you understand? Bullets go through goes through wood.
Yeah, exactly.
Shoot through the box.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. Like I like that. I like that they are like they're very serious with the gunfighting. It's not like and also it's a gunfight in a Disney show.
Yeah.
Which is weird in of itself. Like this does not feel like your typical Disney Plus show. It feels very different. And I really like that about it. It's not there when it comes to like the quality of writing. The quality of writing is not just inconsistent. Like it very much is heavy on the not great writing. Like to the point where it goes from being like most of the time not great to bad.
Yeah.
To some really great high points that's just like, dang, this is good stuff.
Yeah, I liked the it's weird because I like the budding, obviously like love interest relationship that you'll get from Scott and Erica, but like I found Scott's obliviousness to Erica picking up the signs and like the not subtext text, I found that so cringe, that like,
oh, super cringe. But I actually like that.
Did not work for me, but
guess what? Dudes who have their lives put together like this are oftentimes super cringe when it comes to personal interaction.
It's as somebody who myself, like I realize I am super oblivious when a lot of those kinds of signs happen. I feel like I'm not this oblivious where it's like very clearly like what she's saying is these things. And he's like, because he's then commenting on it and saying like, you see that, Hooch? We gotta pay attention to what's in front of us. We gotta pick up the signs. And it's like,
that's a bit heavy. That's a bit much.
You're clearly not doing the thing that you're just saying you should be doing. So yeah, like that's where I say it's like cringy. It's like, that it's that level of like obliviousness that bothers me.
For sure, I understand that, and I feel like that's actually more on like the side of bad writing than like, anything else. Like because once again, the acting in this show is actually like really good. The pilot episode, like acting wise, I think it's really really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I had anything else I wanted to touch on. I mean, like they introduce little ideas that like maybe something that's affecting that is that Scott's still hung up on his ex or something like that. That kind of gets dropped in there as like a little bit of character exposition at one point.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll see. I'm sure that will like play out over the future episodes. Is this a thing you're gonna sit down and maybe try and check out a few more episodes, or was this kind of like the writing's just not there, I don't want to take my time?
I just don't have the time for a show right now.
Yeah.
I've even had to put Ted Lasso on the back burner while I take care of other stuff. Like if I'm not watching Ted Lasso, I'm catching up with Ted Lasso. Not what else is getting done, you know? Mm-hmm. Like just with, like literally I'm working, like lunchtime included, I'm working like 10 and a half hour days. Like I don't have time for that much. And if I'm going to be doing something, I want it to be something that I can do other stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Unfortunately, I love Turner Hooch. I love what were like the kernels of really great like storytelling and great characters and like in a good show is really here for the show. And I really hope that as it continues going on, it gets better in that it progresses in a lot better. But as it is right now, like this was not compelling enough for me to drop everything else to start watching it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I have significantly more free time, and it's still not something that's going to like crack my top 10 things to do in a week or something like that. Because yeah, just I didn't think without the connection, I definitely don't have like the interest, but I also just didn't think the quality of it was up there with something that I'm interested in checking out more of and hopping into week in, week out. It might be a thing I'll throw on like in the background once everything's done. I might have it be like a binge show while I'm doing something else, but right now this ain't it.
Oops.
Because like the bigger overarching mystery of like what kind of case was Tom Hanks Turner working on, just I'm like I don't really care. Like, good luck solving that, other Turner. I don't know. Also, I don't know if like just suddenly U.S. Marshal like will turn into a canine unit. That seems like a weird, that seems like well, here's how we're going to make this be a lasting series with also these kind of characters that we've set up. Just seems like well, it like doesn't, I feel like that's not how the real world works, but so be it. So let's dive into the report card then. Grade it from A+ to F. What would you give Turner and Hooch, the pilot episode here?
It's a C+ B- territory for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to go with a C+.
Okay. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean that checks out with kind of how you described it. It's a little bit less for me, it's just probably a C for me. And that like maybe if I had an affinity for the original, I would have found a few more of the like, that's a cute little nod to the thing that they're doing. But yeah, it's just didn't really do much for me. But it's also like it's not bad. It's just not. I'm clearly not the target audience for this. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this one. It's always interesting doing these kinds of ones because it does kind of open up like, oh wow, those things are on Disney Plus. Okay. You do have the original Turner Hooch movie is on Disney Plus, as well as Roger Rabbit. The Inspector Gadget film is recommended. 3 Men and a Baby is recommended, which I was like, that's on Disney Plus.
That's on Disney Plus.
All right.
There's cocaine in that movie.
All right. Underdog is recommended. Splash, another Tom Hanks film of the era, recommended.
Well, that's a weird one to have on there. Considering the fact that like literally the film starts off with like John Candy being a peeping Tom.
National Treasure. And the 3 Men and a Baby follow-up, 3 Men and a Little Lady.
Which I love as well. It's super great.
So yeah, that is the other suggestions on Disney Plus. I have no idea how you would even find those things unless you just go and look at like movies or whatever on like movies alphabetically on Disney Plus, because like they don't have like Disney Plus obviously has like here's your Disney section, here's your Pixar section, here's your Marvel section, here's your Star Wars, here's Simpsons, here's like National Geographic, but they don't have a good like here's all of the other stuff, I guess. Like even as I was going through, I've been mapping out and trying to figure out like topics and ideas for upcoming like Halloween themed episodes and Christmas themed episodes for later in the year, and I can't even just do a genre or a topic search. Like if I type in Halloween, all that comes up are the Halloween Town movies. Or if I type in Christmas, I get like a couple of Christmas movies, but nowhere near the breadth of like the Christmas content on Disney Plus.
Dude, the UI interface for Disney Plus sucks so bad.
You watching anything else on Disney Plus, or as you kind of touched on there, you're just busy with busy things?
I don't have time.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I've continued keeping up with What If. And I think that's probably about it for me. Yeah, I don't think I really dove into anything else. Oh, I did. I mean, I did watch Iron Man 3 recently, but that was for a different podcast. So I'll talk about that in a second. But that is going to do it for that D Plus show. Thank you, Cameron, for joining me to talk about Turner and Hooch. What was the title of that episode? Forever and a Dog. Hence the Forever Dog. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to your Let's Play on Zombies Ate My Neighbors. It's up live on our YouTube. Go check it out, youtube.com/thatnerdysite. It's good stuff. It hasn't come to PlayStation despite it long awaited arrival. So Trevor played it on Super Nintendo and had fun with that. So
Yep. Indeed, I did. I got tired of waiting for it, so I finally just kind of booted up the Super Nintendo version of it. I have the cartridge right here that is not in the Super NT, because I then switched over and started playing some Final Fantasy II, aka Final Fantasy IV, which just came to Steam as well. But yeah, Zombies Ate My Neighbors was supposed to come to PlayStation June 30th, June 29th, something like that. And it just never did. It released on Switch and people were like, hey, this is a terrible port. And so it's probably likely that like it just never passed certification over with Sony. But I still had the original, so I booted up and played it there for a Let's Play. So yeah, you can definitely check that out. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, and the other thing I'm going to give a shout out to is I was on the Castle Vault podcast that I mentioned earlier in the episode with my friends Josh and Jason earlier in the week, joining them for the Iron Man 3 episode of their MCU watch through, because I absolutely love talking about Trevor Slattery and an actor named Trevor making his debut in the MCU universe around the time I was still an actor named Trevor. So yeah, you can go check that out. Our friends over at the Castle Vault on Twitter. That episode went live like Monday night, basically. They basically like we recorded it and then they just push it live like as soon as they can, right then and there. So it's been out there for people to enjoy all week, and it's always a fun time sitting down with them because we always talk about a whole bunch of random stuff. I mean, like, I talked with them at length about my Disneyland trip before we even started talking about the movie and stuff. So good times all around. You can follow the latest from all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com, or youtube.com/thatnerdysite, as Cameron pitched earlier. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with friends, all that fun stuff. And if you do feel so inclined, you can always support us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatnerdysite. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other. Class dismissed.